Welcome, everyone, to another round of Final Stint, where two Americans talk about some racing and other sports-related things that are kind of going on. Just delve into some thoughts. My name is Austin, Cookie Monster FL. I'm joined by with Kris, Washer97. Kris, how you doing? It's been a while.
It has been a while. Life has gotten in the way, but doing this right in the nick of time, because we're recording this Thursday night local time, and we got the 8 hours of Bahrain, on Saturday. So it's lots of interesting things going on in that race. Some big championship battles that's going to be down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean, Alpine and Toyota come to mind. I mean, we've got some GT title battles that will definitely go to the wire in that race. The BOP, specifically with the hypercars, looks to be a little bit more balanced, or at least the Peugeots seem to be slightly competitive, and or at least looking to be. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting, exciting, unpredictable. We'll keep throwing words in there, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited. It's an 8-hour race, so it's always a little bit more special for that instead of a 6, and obviously with it being dusk to evening, it's always that's always great. I almost, as an American, wish that it was a Saturday night race, almost like that, where we would get up at like Saturday to watch it in the U.S. just because it does kind of have that Saturday night feel, Kris, like where it's you almost want to end the season kind of under the lights, like Saturday night style kind of thing. And so maybe that would have made it a little bit more hype for me, but otherwise, I mean, I'm really looking forward to this weekend. So,
yeah, not particularly a favorite start for us Americans. I believe it starts at 6 a.m. Eastern time.
Yeah, so a little bit more palatable for me, but the further west you go, it gets rough.
And not to mention, if you are a big enough fan, you got the support races, and all of that stuff, which we do have some support races, which we'll talk after we get after we get done with the meat and bones here of the weekend. So we already had 2 practice sessions. Peugeot topped them both. I think it's very important. I think they reached into the 149s, and in FP2. The ideal lap time for between all 3 hypercar manufacturers. Now, the ideal lap time is basically putting like your best sectors together, and it was like less than half a second for the ideal lap times between all 3 manufacturers, which is very, very encouraging for a competitive race on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're I guess if you're expecting something from BOP to be functional and working, not perfectly, but working pretty well, this is kind of the results you want to see, at least to the start of the weekend. So, pace can be a lot different, Saturday to Sunday, but we'll see. This is kind of what you would want to see from BOP, where all the cars are going to be the same, and kind of what we should be expecting to see next year. When it comes to how close the pace is going to be with a lot of these teams and manufacturers, it should be relatively this close. And, this should lead to 8 hours of pretty exciting racing if the pace is going to be relatively that close. And especially when it comes to the championship battles, like I'm definitely prepared to see some swings being taken, some risk being taken, with strategy or something like that, especially on the Alpine team to see if they can elevate themselves above the Toyotas. So yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful. I don't know if I want to say that it's guaranteed to be a great race on Sunday, but it has the groundwork laid now, at least at the start of the weekend, to be a pretty good race. So I'm really looking forward to it, and that's just with 5 hypercars and then the rest of the field, obviously, that we'll talk about too. But, it just is always putting in the back of my head, like it's going to get so much bigger than this. And, if they could even capture half of the excitement that we currently have kind of with this championship as it winds up going into this weekend, we're going to be in a really good spot a year from now. So.
Right, and I just got reminded. Last time out at Fuji, we were talking about practice times and trying to make, trying to fit some more pieces of the puzzle on what exactly was going to happen towards the weekend. And when the practice times came in, everybody thought, okay, like Toyota and Peugeot, like they might be in a race with themselves, but Alpine will be very behind. Well, Alpine jumped the Peugeot on pace in qualifying. So obviously practice times do not lead to everything. All the pieces of the jigsaw are not in place until qualifying happens. But it's nice to know that we have two pieces of the puzzle right now. They look encouraging, especially if you're biased like me and want an Alpine championship. So, and top speeds, put around like 287, 289, and they're all within like 10 miles an hour from each other. So we'll have to wait and see on that. The championship fight, number 36 Alpine and number 8 Toyota for the Drivers' Championships. Those are tied on points. I believe WEC does points for qualifying, so they'll edge out Toyota or Alpine, however the results go there. But either way, it's basically going to be a matter of who finishes ahead of the other. In that case, that should be it, because Alpine obviously has the stint link issue. So that could pose a problem, but Toyota is not free of issues either, although looks like they've worked on that. They have been having less. Keep in mind, Fuji, nothing really bad happened to them. So how do you see this playing out? So let's say the BOP is working like intended. They're competitive. They're all fighting for positions. If they're equal on pace, I don't think Alpine has a chance to win the championship, to be honest, because of that stint length issue. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can say would be that they have some way to save some fuel, so it's either engine mapping or it's the drivers themselves being able to short shift and, having somehow a little bit of a superior just like balance or pace advantage, through the meat of their stints, where that they can kind of, either it'll gain a little bit of advantage on pace on track, or they can save enough where, they can maybe push their stint length. Because again, it's not the short track Bahrain, which would make this awesome. But it is, it's still not Le Mans. So it's, while it is definitely it's not a short track, it's definitely shorter than some of the other tracks that they go to as well, including Spa. So for them to potentially be able to save fuel during the stint, I think it's maybe more reasonably doable here. And again, if they just have a better balance of the car and that they can carry that speed and have that pace and match them with the Toyotas, maybe there's a chance that they can actually save some fuel. But again, I'm with you. I mean, the math kind of doesn't check out in their favor. They kind of need to be able to, outlast the Toyotas somehow, either with fuel economy or just with pace, because they do have a disadvantage. So, but it will be interesting to see though, because they're on a different pace strategy, and we might start seeing actual fights between the Peugeot and Toyota teams, that if their overall pace gets disrupted enough, and Alpine, I can actually start entertaining ideas where other things can start upsetting the apple cart besides, okay, Alpine's raw pace is this, Toyota's raw pace is that. There's really not anything that's going to happen here outside of maybe traffic or something random. But now it's just kind of like, okay, well, if they're all infighting with each other kind of thing, and Alpine is still a little bit behind, they could start gambling with something, start saving some more fuel because they're not fighting, they're not losing as much pace. I don't know. So I definitely see there's options for Alpine to come out ahead. But I'm with you that they would need stuff like that to work their way, and they can't fall behind. They really can't. They need to be, ahead of the Toyotas at all times if possible, and try to work that strategy if they can.
So that's the Hypercar Drivers Championship. For the Manufacturers Championship, it seems like Toyota has this on a lock. Basically, both Toyotas need to just die if Alpine has any chance. Um, LMP2, number 38, Jota. Um, it looks like they're going to be likely to take the title. I think they're up by like 20, 21 points. So basically, they would have to have a mare of a race to lose their championship. LMP2 Pro-Am, however, that's a more tighter fight. We have AF Corsa and Algarve Pro. They're 8 points from each other. That thing, that's still competitive and could very still swing either way.
Yeah, that's going to be something to obviously watch the entire race because of how volatile the LMP2 is going to be. But I mean, there's going to be a lot to watch, and and I think that the championship is something extra to watch on top of it. I'll be honest, a lot of the championship races are just like they're tough for me to kind of like get it into it fully of like the gravitas of it. Whereas I feel like it's a little easier with like maybe F1 and NASCAR because it's just you've gone through so many rounds, so there is an end to it. And I think with endurance racing, the end of the race almost feels like the end of the season per se, to me. So having having a championship race like this come down to a lot of different classes and doing different stuff is like, that's just an extra layer that sometimes it's like, it's a data overload for me where I'm like, I'm just trying to pay attention to who's winning, who's leading the class, who's battling, if there's any upsets anyway, and then you're throwing in championship stuff where it's like, oh god, yeah, like there's extra decisions that need to be made. So that's why I feel like I can't really predict a lot of stuff, especially with the hypercar too with Alpine, because I mean, there's probably going to be opportunities where you could gamble where we just haven't seen it all year. And that might be places where Alpine, ducks in the pits or stays out, does something crazy to try to maintain and hold on to their to any advantage they possibly can hold on to when it comes to the race. Because, it just seems like with this year, it's been made very clear how far everyone's willing to go to get a championship or to win that thing. And we'll talk about that later on too. But so yeah, I don't know. I feel like this year especially, like, I got to pay attention to the championship round now more than ever, and it's like I got to get myself prepped for that, man. It's not easy to do sometimes for me. There's a lot going on here, and especially in endurance races, it's like I already got enough stuff to pay attention to. So, but yeah, man, it's it's a lot of battles, and especially with the LMP2 class. Like, I mean, 38's favored, but like, man, I mean, they could get easily punted into some gravel, like, and then they're done.
So just to name the drivers that are competing, because it is a drivers' championship, we should give them some credit. Number 8, Brendan Hartley, Ryo Hirakawa, Hirakawa from Super Formula and Super GT fan. And Sebastian Buemi. Then the number 36 Alpine is Andre Negrão, Mathieu Vaux. That last name will always stump me. We just call him Matthew Vaccine for the memes.
Boxivere or something like that.
Yeah, and then you got Nicolas Lapierre in that card. Then you get 38 Jota. It's leading by... Let me get my points here. Okay, yeah, it's pretty... It's more than 20. Actually, no, it's 18 points, if I'm doing my math right.
Basically, no wrecks or mechanical failure.
Pretty much. And then Antonio Felix da Costa... Roberto Gonzalez and Will Stevens would be the champions if kept the same. What about Pro-Am? What are the drivers for that? Of course, obviously in the lead, Alessio Rivera, absolutely stalwart of a driver. And then you got Francois Perotto and Nicholas Nielsen. And then in Algarve Pro, we got James Allen, Rene Binder, and Stephen Thomas.
So, and speaking of championships, and I'm kind of skipping around here, but so we talked about LMPs a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about LMP2. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on GT, on the GT Pro and then GT Am? What are your thoughts on the championship coming into this round with those guys?
So, the GTE Drivers' Championship is 11 points, so that's still relatively close. AF Corsa is in the lead in the Drivers' Championship with Perguidi and Collado, and then you got Porsche right behind with Estra and Christensen. So that'll be a duel, like we saw last year, Porsche versus Ferrari fighting for a championship. And then you got the Manufacturers' Championship, which I think is going to be way more interesting to focus on, because you got Ferrari leading Porsche by only 1 point. And Drivers' Championship is cool and all, but in the world of sports car racing, sometimes it's just easier to focus on the manufacturers. And that one might be more interesting as the race goes on, depending on the way it goes.
Especially for factory. For factory, it's all about the manufacturer getting that title. So, I mean,
that's world champion. That's a world championship.
Yeah. That's advertising bragging rights beyond belief. Like, and not. I mean, whether or not it works or not, it's just like can you imagine a year where whatever OEM doesn't win one of these championships, or at least Le Mans or something, that doesn't brag about it? Like, I mean, it's straight up like advertising posters, like incoming. So yeah, I mean, and especially from what all the drama of last year, I'm very excited to see how close they are at the end of the 8 hours and see if any other close encounters occur. But I'm sure Race Control and Eduardo Freitas is going to be watching them very closely throughout the race, because I doubt FIAWC want anything to do with a repeat of last year, especially after Formula One's crazy end of their season as well. So FIA need clean finishes to their championships, so I really doubt we're going to see any fireworks. But hey, I would have said the same thing last year if somebody asked me, hey, do you think Porsche and Ferrari are going to come together at and then create some crazy controversy by way of like sort of obeying but then not really obeying like specific rules on how that works? Like, yeah. So I mean, we'll see. I'm excited for round 2. I'm bringing my popcorn either way.
Well, the end of GTE Pro is certainly going to put on a show. Really unfortunate, the class at the end. Obviously, Porsche and Ferrari, who were basically kept this class afloat. You know, they're like, hey, we're gonna do hypercar, and we just don't want to focus on a GT Pro class. That was literally it. I mean, you had Corvette. You bet Corvette was willing to run a pro class, but like if you only have one manufacturer interested, that's not exactly good. So yeah, so end of GTE Pro. We're gonna do GTE next year, basically GTE AM rules, and then 2024 we move on to GT3. So that'd be interesting. Corvette obviously interested, already confirmed doing WEC next year, I believe, with Keating as their AM driver. That's going to be awesome. And speaking of Keating, he's leading the championship in GTE by 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we take notes throughout the month to have discussions and stuff. So Kris has a little note in here about Ben Keating GOAT, and I understand that that this is well-known knowledge if you're a sports car racing or endurance fan for the last, like, maybe 10 years, maybe? No, maybe 5-6 years. Like, the dude's money. He knows how to drive race cars. I would have said before him, I would have put what's his name? I forgot his name. LMP2 driver, software developer.
David Heinemann or Hansen?
That's him. Yeah, I would have said he's probably one of, like, I would say talent-wise, one of the most talented AMs I've just personally have seen race. And, like, would say, like, if he raced when he was a kid, or, like, you know, that was what he did growing up, he would be a very, very good race car driver. I would have said the same thing with Ben Keating. And the crazy thing about Ben Keating is that he's just that much older than David Heinemeier Hansson, and the dude just knows how to drive these cars. Like, he would absolutely be a fantastic and long-serving sports car racing driver if he started doing it when he was younger. He continually impresses, and that's the thing. Like, some of these guys will do well. Roman Rusinov, obviously, and there'll be spurts of that where they're like, pace is good, pace is really good, and then there'll just be times where you're just like out to lunch. And Ben Keating will have those, but man, I mean, they're so few and far between, and he has such stellar stints that almost compare to pro drivers, or just blow AM drivers way out of the water. He continues to amaze me. So, just that note on there, like, I mean, why not? Why not? At least for what I've seen personally myself, he's definitely one of the greatest AM drivers I've ever been able to see in my lifetime. So, personally, I would absolutely pull Ben Keating up as he's definitely going to win this championship, and wouldn't be shocked if he, comes out of the gate swinging next year as well. The dude is on fire.
And we're going to mention his co-driver too, Marco Sorensen, who would also be co-champion. And unfortunately, it'll just be two drivers, even though it's going to be a three-driver lineup. Hendrik Chavez is also going to be in that 33, I believe it is, but he did miss Sebring, so he didn't get the points for that. So it's just going to be Keating and Sorensen leading the championship with a 20-point gap. We'll talk about who's in second. It's the Northwest Aston Martin Racing Team. You got David Pittard, Nicky Thiem, and Paul Dallalana. 20 points, because I believe the winner gets 25. That might be, if TF Sport doesn't have a problem, that could be massively hard to overcome.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, like gravel trap, LMP2 AM driver punt, and this is a different conversation kind of thing. We've seen that, I think, a little bit this year too. No,
let me rephrase.
Okay.
It's 38 points because it's 8 hours.
Oh, okay.
So much more doable.
okay, much more doable. So yeah, I think there's a part of it where you want to strategize a maybe like get to a halfway point kind of thing, so that because I think they are do they issue points at designated spots, or is it all at the end?
I don't think so, but basically, judging by my napkin math, TF Sport just needs to finish third or better.
Okay.
Because third offers 23 points.
Guaranteed, doesn't matter what anybody else does, third or better wins it.
Yep.
Got it. Then yeah, I mean, I think but at the same time, Ben Keating's good enough to, you could stick him and have him do hero stints at the beginning, and I think he would do fine, and you just run him anyway. So, I think they have such a comfortable lead that it's flexible. It's just literally don't do anything stupid. If you can fight for positions and fight for the lead, that's good. But when it comes to traffic management, just be as careful as humanly possible, and make sure you're surviving up until hour 5, hour 6, and then start going for it. They just have a driver lineup that will keep them in the top half of the GTM, field, if not the point for most of the race anyway. So I think they'll have good pace. It's just keeping it clean and really just not affording anything. Because again, if they don't really need to do much, they need to watch what everybody else does and see and react to that. So, welcome back, guys. We were just take a little bit of a break. Buddy of ours from Endurance Chat stopped in the recording booth, the virtual recording booth per se. Michael, Floodman 11, sir, how are you doing? Glad that you could stop by and join us on this weird little rant escapade that we do every month now as Americans.
I didn't. Well, I did know that this was a thing, but hey, I'm here. It's been a long time since I've been behind the microphone for Endurance Chat, so this is a bit of a return, I guess. But no, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah, you've been doing some marshalling and stuff, so I've been moving, and there's been a bunch of stuff going on, so it's been a little bit disconnected. But we're getting back on track. So how you been, man? How's the marshalling going?
I have been doing super duper well in terms of motorsport stuff. So I was just out at the Bend a few weeks ago to marshal at the Shannon's Motorsport Australia Championships, which was a lot of fun, even though half the events on Sunday got rained out, which sucked. And then next month, I'm going to be at the Adelaide 500, the return of the Adelaide 500. I got confirmation for that last week. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
I'm super duper excited for that. Yeah.
Do you know where you're going to be posted or what you're doing?
I don't know where I'm going to be posted, but I am going to be on the communications loop. So I'm going to be communicating with all the other marshal posts and with race control. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
You're going to have to give a best of radio chatter. Any interesting quips or anything, not to get anybody in trouble, but I don't know. You've spoken in the past of some of that stuff that makes it interesting for me, at least, or just to hear people's opinions over the radio sometimes when they don't necessarily intend to, or you can kind of like, you can infer it kind of thing. That always interests me. So you're going to have to keep me apprised of how that goes.
I will. I'm sure I'll do a post somewhere, or I'll tell some stories at some point.
Oh man, I'm excited for that to come back too. I was pretty bummed that that was taken away from the calendar for a while. So I'm glad for all you Adelaideans or however you guys call yourselves. So.
Yeah, Adelaidean is correct.
Wow.
I literally remember I pulled into a parking spot. This is when I worked very early. I pulled in my parking lot like 30 minutes before work. I checked my phone, checked Facebook. Adelaide 500 scrapped, and I've never been so sad. Like that literally ruined my mood.
Well, I mean that's like taking Monaco away from like F1. It like I don't know if I think of it as a street race for V8s, it's definitely Adelaide. And obviously, like
imagine if it. I must imagine it would be like if, like for me, because I've been to that event for like 20 years now, it must be like, you know, getting an announcement that IMSA has cancelled Road America or something. Like you just...
It'd be Long Beach. It would be Long Beach.
Yeah, okay.
It would definitely be that.
As soon as I saw that news, it was like my mood changed in an instant. But it's back now, so we're all happy. Anyway, what were you guys talking about before I got here? I feel like I rudely interrupted by like sweeping in while you're doing.
Oh yeah. So rudely interrupted. We're just like a bunch of sports car nerds just nerding out. So you're rudely interrupting the nerd out. We're talking about
goddamn foreigners taking our jobs.
That's how it works, man. That's how it works. 8 hours. We're talking about the 8 hours WC finale. Any loose thoughts you have on that right now on anything heading this championship weekend?
Bahrain is way better than people give it credit for, and I love the transition to night racing. That's it.
Oh, and FP3 is being live streamed for the very first time outside of Le Mans.
Ooh! Okay, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to grab that. I just can't wait. Hopefully there's going to be like a bunch of different stuff going on. I don't know. Hopefully this is like everybody, if you're listening to this now live, I don't know, besides like all of us, there's like 2 people not able to speak and listening to us live. But anybody that's listening to us possibly now, tune in to FP3. Hopefully I can get this up like immediately so that people can do it.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. Watch it, FP3. If we can get as many people as possible to watch this damn thing, that's only going to make this probably more likely that we see more of this next year. So I would absolutely, good Lord, want people to be watching this. So we'll see. Now this might motivate me to actually get this up immediately, which I never do. So, but that's exciting for me. I like anything that I can watch for endurance, especially for WC weekend content, and especially for free practices, give me all of them. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, man. Well, good. I like the transition night too. So thanks for that, Flood. But I think Chris, before we pivoted to hang out with Flood for a bit, we were going to talk about something that I haven't really dug my teeth too much into, but you might know more about this. So FIA Motorsports Games, or FIA Motorsport Games. You want to tell us about it a little bit?
So a couple weeks ago, we had the first edition of the game since COVID hit. The last edition was in Vallelunga at that games 2019 you just had GT, F4, touring car, esports, and drifting. Now they went to Paul Ricard for this year's edition. So they kept the the disciplines that they had in 2019, but they added a GT Sprint where it was basically all pro, or it wasn't all pro, but you can have whatever driver rating you wanted in those cars, which I thought was a very nice addition. You had rally. You had 3 different disciplines of rally. You had karting and different disciplines of that. You had auto slalom. You had let's see, autocross or cross car. My bad, and other stuff like that. And I thought that those were great additions because it's sort of like the Olympics, right? Because you'll have a big event like that, and you'll catch yourself watching things that you normally won't watch. So the next edition of the games have been announced for 2024. So it looks like it's going to happen every 2 years, which I think it's a great idea. Don't need to have them every year. At Valencia. I don't like the track, but I guess infrastructure's there, because they need all the stuff like karting and stuff like that. So
hang on. You don't like the track at Valencia?
No, I don't like Valencia.
What?
Nah.
I feel like
I don't either. I don't either.
What?
Yeah, it's not a good track.
No. Oh, okay. I'm getting out.
You and Alex have on the Discord. You guys can bond over that opinion.
What? Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to die on the hill that Valencia is a bad track.
Like Valencia can have good races, but more often than not, it's not exactly entertaining.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I haven't really watched too much car racing at Valencia. I watched more bikes at Valencia because that's what it's known for. But I think the car racing I have seen has been quite good, except for Formula E. That was trash.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
We don't want
GT World Challenge Race 2. GT World Challenge Race 2 from this year was good, only because you had, like the changing weather conditions and the tire strategy and stuff like that. Anyway, you, Flood, have I watched some bit of the games, and you were happy about one particular result.
Yeah, we got a gold, and it was Matt Campbell, so I was very stoked to see that. He controlled that race from the very beginning, which was amazing. So I was very happy to see that. We didn't quite go so well with the TCR or the GT, the Pro-Am or the whatever, the non-GT sprint aspect. The Groves had a pretty shocking time in the first of the 2 races there. So bad luck to them after they've had problems with their car at Bathurst and also at Spa, getting that riding off that Porsche twice, which was, not a fun time. But yeah, Matt Campbell, we won a gold medal, we won the GT Sprint.
He had some big names in there. I mean, he had Mirko Bertolotti, Dries Vanthoor. So it wasn't exactly like, a bunch of washed up has-beens racing in it. You had names that are well known in the sports car racing community. So I hope that grows. Obviously, I think we had less cars than what we did in 2019.
Yeah.
Which I thought for the cars that we had, the grid count that we had, the racing wasn't that bad. Obviously, when you compare it, but with the grid that we had, it could have been a lot worse. They were fine races.
Yeah.
TCR was probably more entertaining throughout the mid-pack. I believe Tom Cornell won the gold medal for that. So he'll get the post and tweet about that all day long. Kimi Antonelli, if you know anything about the junior Formula scene, that was a solid lock, and he won the gold single-handedly in F4. And then overall in the games, Italy won. They won the games, so congratulations to them. But I like this event. It's obviously the Olympics of motorsport. That's the most easiest way to explain it. And I hope this event grows because I think this could be something that could be much bigger.
Yeah.
Because imagine if we can get more disciplines in other areas of this. I don't know. Could maybe NASCAR will in Euro Series or puts up the stock cars or something for a discipline and stuff like that. So that's what I have about the FIA Motorsport Games. I like it. I was entertained. It was fun.
Sorry, Chris, we had a comment about adding car soccer to it in the future. That would be that would be a little bit funny. That would be a little bit funny. Thanks.
And funny he mentioned that because in the States we had a little show called Lucas Oil on the Edge that would be on the Speed Channel, and there was an episode of exactly that, and this is only going to make sense for the Americans, but when they pushed this big old soccer ball into the makeshift goals that they had, a big old goal graphic that'll jump up and down the screen like in Speed Channel font. It's so funny for unknown reason.
Brilliant.
Man, I mean,
anyway,
Lucas Oil on the Edge content back in the day and on the Speed Channel was always like top notch. It was always A+.
It still exists. It's just on Mav TV, and it's just nobody really knows that it's on there. So.
No, I like the idea. Honestly, like I think if it gets a little bit more traction, like I just genuinely didn't realize what it was until I just Googled it when I saw it in your notes before we were talking about this, because I just didn't know about it. I don't know how it like completely missed my radar, but this is definitely something that I would get into. And if it's every like 2 years, it's definitely an event that it can easily stand out from the regular motorsport calendar as its own thing. And there's no real need to be, withholding drivers from this if they don't want to do it, because it's literally, an FIA product, and it's for, I think it's ultimately for a good thing. Like it's encouraging more countries to try to like, be seen in the motorsport community, especially from driver talent. And that doesn't always just have to come from like 24 countries. So I like that.
I think it's a great way to have a showcase of worldwide formula, like GT3, like TCR, and put it on, a stage where you'd encounter drivers and combinations you might not have expected before. So, like, the fact that we have a global TCR formula, and one of the Australian TCR drivers got to drive against all of the TCR drivers from around the world. Like, that's cool. So can you imagine, if we had like a Carrera Cup World Cup class in like a few years' time, where you just said, like, they've got the Champions Day or whatever for Carrera Cup, where they all do the test to see if someone wins a slot in the Porsche Junior program. Like, if you imagine you had Carrera Cup as one of the categories, because the amount of the Carrera Cup championships you have around the world.
Yep.
And do something like that, and it can only go upwards from here. Like, I caught myself watching drifting one night. I've never watched drifting before in my life. It confused the absolute pants out of me, but I had a good time. And it's just it would be a cool way to sort of get some national identity behind motorsports, which is a very sort of team and brand orientated thing, in a way that's not terrible like the A1GP was.
This is what I'm saying, is that it doesn't, like, I'm sure there's probably some blah 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 corruption, whatever, yada yada, but I think at the base of it, this is trying to do what I think no other motorsport series can do, because it's all very much monetary driven. Like it has to specifically do a lot of the things it wants to do and be greedy because of a monetary position. This just opens it up, especially for drivers, the people that a lot of the fans resonate towards, to give them their own identity. It also kind of allows each of these sports to like be able to showcase themselves and in the different ways that motorsport, is seen and enjoyed by different people. I think just getting eyeballs on it where it's not, and it's not where it's this restrictive, like we only talk and we only discuss it from this perspective, is really encouraging. And I think that's where I think the Race of Champions kind of tried to do that, but I think this does a better job doing it way more than the Race of Champions does, because I genuinely feel like there is a country interest behind some of the stuff that's going on, especially the drivers, that kind of thing. They're not necessarily motivated by I'm popular and and I want to represent my whatever I'm motivated by, brand or country, but again for my own brand reasons, so. Yeah, that's a little rant, but I think I really hope this goes. This keeps taking off, and I hope that this continues and that it builds clout, because it would be great to see F1 drivers want to do this, because it's something important and meaningful, especially to drivers. Because I think you could easily get that in less than a decade from this if this works well.
Yeah, imagine if we had like an F4 class and then also an F2 class, maybe with some F1 drivers. Obviously, you're not going to get F1 cars as part of the Motorsport Games, but F2,
no, that's totally doable. And then we'll get dirt ovals and oh, sorry,
Speedway,
yeah.
dude, that would be sick.
Yeah.
A Speedway class, I'd be so down for that.
I want to see Max Verstappen, take Denmark to the gold by winning somehow a dirt oval.
Is it Denmark? Are you?
I'm kidding.
Mate.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
What about like? Is there like going to be a heptathlon for motorsports? Like, is there what you're going to win a GT race, a TCR race, a drift, and a rally, rallycross?
Yes. Oh yes. Another good one for Indecisive. Stadium Super Trucks. Absolutely. Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yes. Robbie Gord would instantly win gold for a few of these.
just quickly, as a Motorsport Games heptathlon, who do you reckon out of the current drivers that you're aware of would be the best all-rounder in terms of like rallycross, TCR, or touring cars, GT cars, and I don't know, open wheel or drift? Who do you reckon?
Frederick Vervish.
Vervish? I didn't realize he did much rally.
And I don't know if he does, but I know he does TCR and GT3 a lot.
Yeah, fair. Cookie, any takers?
Man, I was going to say Vanthor, but I genuinely don't think that he's done any rallying, so...
I'm going to throw a name out there.
Wait,
Shane
Indy
Van
Dutch.
Gisbergen.
Oh, okay. That's a good one, too.
Raikkonen could work.
Raikkonen, yeah.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Tandy? Maybe Tandy?
Tandy would be hilarious.
Does he? I think he rallies. Doesn't he rally?
I don't think so.
Okay. There's some GT driver that we're not thinking of that also rallies, but anyway.
Get John Todt. Or Henry Pescarolo.
Oh man, yeah. Oh no. What are we talking about? Carlos Sainz Sr. Like just drag him out.
Yeah. Cool.
There you go. He'll kill it. But yeah, so hopefully we get to talk about this in 2 years and how awesome it's going to be. So, but yeah.
Speaking of new disciplines, if wall riding was ever added to the motorsport games, I think we all knew who's going to win the gold medal for that. Let's talk about Ross Chastain. I know it's been talked all to death, and the NASCAR season is over.
Yep.
But Flood, you probably have to have seen this. Clip.
Do you know what a Ross Chastain is?
Yeah. I have no idea who he is. I have no idea what the context was. All I saw was a NASCAR going way too fast up against the wall, passing like 14 other cars on the last lap. I just saw that clip and was like, how is this even legal? Also,
okay, okay. But before you say anything else, so Chris, I already think I know what his initial reaction to this is, because it was basically mine too, and I know you're probably like you probably liked it too, but there's probably a little bit of it as well. But Flood, did you like the move?
I don't know.
Okay, that wasn't quite what I thought, but yeah, because I'm also kind of in the I don't know, leaning like you did it, good job, but I please, dear God, somebody patch that hole up real quick.
Yeah, like it's like that is 100% an exploit, and like fantastic job for doing it and getting it to work. But like, should that be allowed? I don't know.
Do you think that's the endurance part, like the sports car racing, or do you think that's just like the gamer and all of us that's all done that, or like have seen that done to us online, and that this is like part of us going like, we got gypped by that at some point. That shouldn't be allowed. Like, I can't tell if I'm on that level or if I'm on, like I'm just still like not okay with it from a sports car like rule standpoint.
I think a good comparison for this, and I'll let Flood go on. I think because I saw a great comparison that this was like Alex Zanardi's The Pass back in '96. Awesome when it happened. Probably shouldn't happen again.
Yeah, that's Laguna Seca, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
at the corkscrew.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I know the one. Yeah, it's one of those where like I don't know if it's the sports car person in me or just the person who likes integrity. and it's just going like, that can't be allowed. That shouldn't be allowed. What's going on with that? Why is that allowed? But then, like on the other side, like that is ingenious. That is just absolutely just ridiculous. How do you think to do that and then actually do it? Like that's I'm impressed that it happened, but I'm not sure that I could be impressed that it happened. I don't know my feelings.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's genuinely like, I know Carl Edwards sort of did it, and I know that Kyle Larson sort of did it, but those were half efforts. Like there wasn't like, I think an actual thought. Like it was more like, oh my God, it actually sort of worked, but it was like, I don't think it was on a level that this was at. Like this one was just a pure video game move. Like I know people have said PlayStation moves before and stuff, and I know he literally quoted GameCube, but like it straight up was a video game thing. Like there's no way you would have thought about it. No way you would have like kept it on the gas the entire time because the telemetry's out and he didn't lift and like went into a higher gear. Like that's literally somebody who's done that before on a video game. And I don't think I have ever in my life seen a motorsport race finish with somebody accomplishing a feat like that and only specifically had experience and only knew about it because of video games. Like I genuinely don't know if I've ever seen anything like that in my life. And I think like that is the thing that I'm unbelievably impressed with. But at the same time, I'm just like, dude, patch updates are coming. You gotta hit the patch updates, guys. Like, we're at week 13 here, like this is like, like all this isn't for iRating for all the iRacing people out there. Like this is okay. But then like, let's just kind of go, we now have a Ross Chastain role. Congratulations kind of thing. So yeah. I loved it, but I also hate it.
Let's also talk about the context of this.
Yeah, I was just about to ask. So, like, what was the context?
So basically, this was the final race before the season finale, which the top 4 would move on.
That's right, because the NASCAR has like the stupid chase thing. Where
the playoffs, the elimination format. So Ross Chastain was a few points behind Denny Hamlin. So he needed to pass a couple more cars so he can get ahead of him in points. So that was the context. He needed to pass a couple of more cars, and then we all know this. We all know how the story unfolded. He did that and then some in order to advance to the championship 4, and he got second in the finale. So
it worked. It completely worked in his favor, and he had like a kind of a semi-season long rival that he basically knocked out because of that. So it was like he basically got the last laugh on his quote-unquote rival that he had throughout the season, knocking him out of the playoffs, sending him into the final round, or basically the last race of the season. I mean, it was literally just like, I again, like, if you would have told me beforehand, like, hey, by the way, somebody's going to execute a move on the last lap by wall riding, and then I just know that going in, I would not have expected A, the speed, and B, the amount of momentum that he carried, and just C, the amount of cars he actually passed with the first 2. Like that was kind of like mind blowing how great it worked. And again, like we've heard from like Steve Letarte, and just from what you could see on the damage, like the car was the reason why he was able to do it. Like the car's just built like a tank, and even the tire didn't even pop. So it was just like okay, well, now knowing that, like, that thing is as tough as a tank, I was kind of almost half expecting somebody to do it the final race that happened last weekend, which nobody did, because the literally start-finish line is, like, right after the last turn, like, turn 3, 4. There's, like, maybe 150, 200, or what is it, like, 50 to 100 meters of distance, less than that even, from the last...
translating.
Yes. From the last turn to the start-finish line. So all you need to do is just, like, wide open throttle it, maybe 160, 70 miles an hour if it get that high, and just keep it wide open. I think it probably would have gained you 2 to 3 tenths if somebody would have done it. It would have wrecked your car, but I think somebody could have actually gained time on the last race last weekend if they tried it, but no one did. So it's kind of like...
no, because in Phoenix, turns 3 and 4... the outside wall, it goes outward before it goes into the rest of the corner.
Oh, okay.
So you won't be able, how basically as soon as you exit the straightaway, the outside wall turns away from you a bit, and to make the track a little bit wider. So it wouldn't. I would wage a bet that wouldn't be possible at all to do that actually, because like you can't just hug that car to the wall from the straightaway.
If you came out at an angle, but... Say what?
So you'd actually be like, in order to affect that move up against the wall, you'd actually have to hit the wall, not just like run up against it.
Yeah,
unless you would have to go like probably like I don't. It wouldn't be as perfect as, let's say, Martinsville, and I think I think the turn is way too long. Like the outside radius of that turn is way too long for it to be effective, in my opinion.
I think okay, fair enough. But I also think Richmond could be possible with that, and I also think Bristol would be possible. With that.
Here's the one thing. Like I know David Land, but David Land, there's a gate. There's a gate on, I believe, turn 4. Basically, because it's a short track, they don't have any tunnels that go underneath, no bridges that go over. They have gates in the corners to allow transporters to come in and go. So that's how to get in and out of the track. The worry there was like if they don't like curb stop this and make it a rule that you can't do it, like a car could potentially catch that gate and just jump the car right into the middle of the track and cause an even worse scenario. So that's like another thing that people were kind of focusing on when saying like it was cool when it happened, probably shouldn't happen again.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'll say to it as well is just that I think in the moment too, when it comes to this stuff as well, like I think we'll see this play out in other tracks where it can be useful to do that or just stay in the throttle anyway, because this car doesn't get affected like the old cars do, where you get a lot of friction with this. The car will slide along the wall a decent amount, and especially if all the tires are up, it doesn't, and you keep the throttle even decently up, it's not really going to want to slow down that much, or it's going to be able to resist a lot of the friction it's going to get. So, I mean, I'm just even thinking about Bristol races where you've got contact and somebody kind of like just, slaps the wall a little bit. Like, they don't really have an incentive other than just hold it in the throttle and just ride the wall because they saw Ross Chastain do it. And in the heat of the moment, I certainly wouldn't be thinking about that gate and that barrier that swings out, that attenuating barrier. So I think that's where I'm with you, Chris, where like I feel like that's where it becomes a safety risk, because I don't see where it's just, if we leave this up to the drivers, especially in the heat of the moment where they're clairvoyant enough to go, okay, yes, there might be an advantage here, but for safety reasons, I'm not going to continue, because clearly Ross Chastain's kind of set the bar with that. Like, I don't think a lot of other drivers were going to contemplate doing that, because I mean, he pulled like 4.5, like almost like, I think it was like over 5 Gs at one point. So like, that was a pretty ballsy and dangerous thing to do anyway, just to expect that like you were going to be totally fine and nothing bad was going to happen. So I don't know.
5G?
I think I think it was like lateral 5G. It was the max G-force.
That's like an F1 car.
And it was. Yeah, well, it was. I don't know if it was sustained very much, but obviously, like it was. I mean, he was into the 4s for a bit. I mean, because it's just a constant turn. So so again, it's not where I don't expect this to be like, oh, everybody's just going to do it. But I just, and again, when we're talking, it's the same year that we have this new car, and the back of the car doesn't crumple as much, and we're having drivers that are like out of the season or they're ended their careers because of concussions. They're like going on this year. And it's just like it's a juxtaposition between what a lot of NASCAR is wanting to be, also what the fans want it to be safer, the drivers want it to be safer, but then also at the same time, it's very entertaining, exciting, and it definitely grabs some eyes. So, like, I ultimately I think it's good for motorsport and it's good for NASCAR because like. It's just something that, like, I don't think anybody could come to a consensus of an opinion on where you're like, this is good or bad. Like, everybody's got a right to their own opinion on it, honestly. Like, it's such a spectacular thing that happened. So, but yeah. Crazy stuff. Oh, Flood, how do you think about an American being in F1 next year?
I think it's good for America, and you could argue that it's good for the sport, but I don't like how
follow.
many.
Oh yeah, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say I don't like how many bad American tracks are on the F1 calendar now, because there's 3 of them.
Yeah,
count them, 3.
Yeah,
we can keep Circuit of the Americas. I don't like the other 2 though.
I will say, could you draw any of the 3 tracks from memory right now?
I could draw Circuit of the Americas.
Yeah, maybe Circuit of the Americas. The other 2, I have absolutely no recollection.
Okay, while you guys actually go into the nitty gritty of this, I'm actually going to try and draw Coda. So,
okay. All right.
I'll post a photo in the live chat.
But yeah, so Kris, what are your thoughts, Mr. Sargent? Right, I think.
Yep, Logan Sargent, actually the brother of former NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series driver Dalton Sargent. So how about that? That's pretty American, isn't it?
It is. Honestly, I feel like I've when was he around? Was he in the like 2008, 9, 10, something like that?
No, Dalton Sargent was, God, I can't even remember. It was like within, it's not like, maybe like 2016, 2017. It was like around that time. Gotcha. And he just kind of, I don't know what he's doing anymore. But yeah, I'm very happy Logan is getting the seat. You know, if he, obviously the huge asterisk is if he gets the super license points from the Formula 2 races from Abu Dhabi. I think he just needs to hold steady in like where he is in points, and he'll get it. Yep. But like because if you remember the 2020 Formula 3 finale at Mugello, it was Piastri and Sargent fighting for the championship, both Prima drivers, and like that final race. I was up at half-ass crack at dawn. Watching, rooting for Sargent, then everything just comes tumbling down, and the factory of sadness, comes bearing down on the good old U.S. of A. And I was like, the history of junior drivers from the States, like this is it. Like I don't think I don't know if he's able to, recover from this, because normally, like, if something happens like that, like, they usually just go off to other options in the United States. They have that luxury. But he kept at it. He got F2. He got an F2 ride with Carlin. And now he's going to be in Formula 1, regarding if he gets super license points or not. So yeah, it makes me extremely happy. It gives me another person. It gives me a person to actively cheer for, something that can actually... Because like I was like a Magnussen guy, but now I have actually like a homegrown talent to root for, which is nice.
So you're a big Haas fan then? You're a bit of a Haas hole?
I went back to being a Haas hole after the Russian money was gone. But, yeah, basically when the Russian money was there, it was like I didn't really care. I was like, but now that they're gone, and now it's I'm back on the sinking ship.
Until Andretti Autosport joins.
Ooh, I'm down for that. I think it's really good for the American market, because it's you always want to have someone to as you guys say, someone to root for, which really just weaks me the wrong way. And like with the amount of popularity that F1 is gaining in the States now, with the whole Netflix fan phenomena. I think that's really cool that you guys have someone to actually care about. So kudos to you, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. Sebring sucks, right? Right, Flood?
Yeah, exactly. There's also going to be a new Australian on the grid next year. So if I can have a moment to say...
I mean,
yeah,
it'd be cool to see.
It was what we mentioned is what the bane of my existence in the 2020 F3 finale. It's Oscar Piastri.
Hell yeah, it is.
Dude, he's going to be... Okay, I don't want to say it. I really should. I feel like he's going to be world champion. Like,
hey.
He definitely has that, like... He has the flashes of, like, a Hamilton, Verstappen kind of, like, early confidence kind of thing. Same with Colton Herta. Colton Herta is the same way. Like you kind of get those like they're confident in the right areas. Like they're still like learning how to do stuff, but like when it comes to the right stuff to be a world champion, I feel like there's certain driving styles that you kind of look for like people that are confident in what they can do, and Oscar has it. So you guys just need somebody to win in one of your home GPs. Like that's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it's wild that we've gone so long without anyone winning in Australia because it just had. I don't even think we've got a podium getter because the one time that Ricardo got it, he got disqualified afterwards. So
yeah.
This is where I pull up the actually the non-Formula One races, the non-Formula One Australian Grand Prix have had Australian winners, so stop whining.
Well, I mean, yeah, the New Zealand Grand Prix has had a bunch of New Zealand winners as well. Like, what's your point? Doesn't matter if it's not a world championship.
Touche, yeah.
By the way, this is so something I've been doing is I've been spending the whole year educating my new Netflix F1 fan friends about stuff that's happened throughout the like F1's history. Did you know that the country with the most different Formula One Grand Prix winners, so the most drivers who have won Grand Prix, is America? Is the US of A?
Really?
It's surprising because they didn't. Yeah. Not a lot of them won much, but
do you want to know? Do you want to know how that is the case?
Oh, the Indy 500s.
Wow! Yeah. Thank you for SWTZR in the chat who ruined the surprise. Yes, when the Indy 500 was once part of the F1 calendar in the mid the 50s and 60s. Of the 10 different drivers that have won Grand Prix, American drivers that have won Grand Prix, 9 of them have won one edition of the Indy 500.
It's my contention that they need to bring it back. It's got to be part of the World Championship.
As part of the F1 calendar.
Yeah, they got to do it. I mean, I know it's hoity-toity and all that, and to not want to do ovals and stuff, but like, look, man, ovals just exist as a part of motorsport, man, and like open wheels still has a history of doing it. They've done it before. They recognize the difficulty of doing that. Boom, bada bang, like, let's go, and then you can start getting
F1 car versus the modern Indy car.
Well, no, but I don't know. They can get approved. They can get approved cars that they can service for like a month.
It'll be the Champ Car. It'll be the Champ Car Long Beach IndyCar Motegi situation.
Yeah.
Where you had 2 races in the same weekend with 2 different sets of cars, but they both counted for the same championship.
Yep,
that's dumb.
Because that was in context, Flood. This was the reunification year, and like they had contracts they couldn't bow out of, so they're like, okay, one last hurrah for Champ Car.
The fact that it had to be reunified was dumb. The fact that it ever split in the first place was dumb. IndyCar and kart are dumb.
Don't even like kart. It has nothing to do with this. This is all Tony George. All right, like
that's right.
Like it's all Tony. You sit back and relax as I tell you a story about Tony George. Flood. Like this man should never be near motorsport ever again in his. And I wish no harm on the man, but like, my God, he was like, he might be the worst person that I've ever seen be involved anywhere in motorsport. I've ever like the person who doesn't get it at all.
Even more than Bernie. Oh, I guess Bernie Ecclestone did get it.
He did get it. Jean-Marie Balestre.
Jean-Marie Balestre.
Yeah. But like he was an actual like he wasn't a sniveling coward. So like that's what I'm saying. Like Tony George is like he's like the meek kid that like would get picked on all the time, and then he got handed like a gun, and so he's just like not like he's gonna kill anybody. He's just like, oh, I have the power now, so I want you to go get me a jelly bean, and like, oh, you're disrespecting me, so I want you to like go sit in a corner and never talk to anyone again for a while. Like it's that kind of stuff. Like that's basically how he handled IndyCar in the 90s, and like essentially ripped like IndyCar racing apart for like almost 20 years. It was great. Thanks, Tony George.
It was great.
If because there's some just some wild theories out there that the FIA, Liberty Media, are not happy. You might split. If that happens, do I get to call F1 cars crap wagons?
No,
to be fair,
crap sandals.
To be fair, they look like they're boats nowadays, aren't they? F1 cars. I was as I made mention, been given a history lesson and looking at like highlights from the mid 2000s, like those 2004 cars. They look so much more nimble and terrifying than the modern cars do, and the racing even back then was closer. It felt closer, even though that the downforce and the aero wash made it suck. Because the cars were just so much smaller and they looked so much more nimble.
I think the nimble part is a big deal too, and especially with those cars, they just had the aero that, with the aero wash making it unbelievable, it also allowed them to basically just like turn the wheel at like, I don't know, 100 degrees in an instant and then straighten out, and the car's just like, it instantly reacts. There's no oversteer, understeer. It just instantly snaps out to whatever you command. And there's just so many aero elements on there that like can handle, essentially moving out from behind somebody to try to overtake. Like, it made it exciting when they were there, but it definitely did not make it easy for exciting racing. Yeah, exactly. I think these cars obviously like have more safety in mind, so they're bigger that way. But obviously the hybrid units, blah blah blah. But the lack of the aero, I think, is a benefit. But at the same time, it's making it harder to see these cars dart around at all. Like you're seeing these cars being driven on the limit, and for these cars with their aero packages, the limit is basically you're trying not to crash. Like a lot of times when you're coming under braking, and so like I don't feel like we're seeing a lot more defense as we saw before because of this. But
yeah, and because the cars are so wide and so long, and they have such short braking zones because they're so aero efficient and so hard on the brakes. Yeah. It means that they rely a lot on DRS to pass because the tracks aren't designed.
They should be skinnier though.
Yeah. Oh my god. Like skinnier cars would make it so much cooler.
Yep. Just like skinny lawn darts. That basically is what. I mean, that's how the cars are so long too, man. Yeah,
or all delta wings.
That'll just fatten them up. You know what? Keep the width. I don't give a shit. Just make them really fat. Make them super short wheelbase. I don't care. That would make them look cooler. But anyway, dude, we're going on all kinds of different tangents. I love it. So, but okay. So sad news. We'll move on to the last couple topics here before we wrap it up here. But Core Autosport announces their closure, their departure from this sports car racing world. Any initial thoughts on their passing, and anything you'd like to say?
You make it sound like someone died, like we're giving you. I guess we kind of are.
Because Core Autosport was amazing. I mean, Core
Autosport was amazing.
Like,
I love Core.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I feel like without Core Autosport, ALMS would absolutely have been so much worse off, or just IMSA. I default to ALMS, which they were in ALMS, but just a transition from them being an ALMS to IMSA, them going through the stages with the prototypes, and being that wild card, literally forcing the DPs at the time to basically change their entire attitude of camaraderie and inviting privateers to come along for the ride, to being like, fuck those privateers, they suck.
Yeah,
we only want our cool guys in there, and they basically kicked out the loophole that Core was exploiting. I love it, and the Jeff and his son Colin, they're awesome. I'm gonna miss them. Like they are absolutely like stalwarts in sports car racing. They're intelligent. They mean well. They're always there. They show up. It's definitely a shame to see them go. But more power to them that they can enjoy some more relaxation and go win races as maybe father son, or go do more other stuff. So, but yeah, man, it's a bit of a eulogy.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I love Core Autosport. They were probably, as the team operating the factory Porsche outfit in the United States, they were a big deal as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that.
So Yeah, so the fact that they took GTLM victories and championships can't be forgotten as well. But like even just from the prototype challenge days and all the way through to almost winning the 2018 IMSA championship.
Man.
Like that IMSA championship was one of the best series or seasons I've ever watched, and it was energized by this plucky underdog team that found their way into race winning positions just by good strategy, good pit work, and good planning. Like, they should not have even had a chance up against literal factory outfits from Acura, Cadillac, and Nissan, because ESM was still around at the time. But yeah, they would, and forget about Mazda. But they were there. They were in the hunt. They could have won it in the last race of the season. It was incredible.
Kris, my memories of this kind of were that Laguna Seca race where they, there was that safety car after that first, basically before the race, and they just parked for almost like 30 seconds, 45, like just enough to get into the minimum driver time. And then I also remember their Road America one where they eked out that win on fuel, basically running out of fuel on the cool down lap. Those have got to be some of my standout favorites that I can remember just from them competing at a top level. But obviously, then Petit Le Mans 2018 competing for the title. But how about you, Kris? What do you think? How will you remember Core Autosport as a team?
I like what's the engineer, Jeff Braun?
Yeah,
he's the one that stands out a lot to me. His Dinner with Racers episode is excellent. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, his son Colin racing with the team for quite a bit. NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race winner. And hopefully Colin moves on to something better, something that'll pay the bills, something that'll keep him in the career of racing, because he's definitely one of those good drivers that unfortunately is going to be impacted by this. And it just, this news really just came to me as a shock. Like, it wasn't like, from my point of view, from my stance, like there wasn't like any forewarning that this was going to happen. There wasn't like rumors going around. I was like, oh, Core might be out or Core might be leaving soon. It was just, no, Core's leaving. Like just happened like that. So it's basically they just ripped off the Band-Aid all at once with this news.
Yeah, they're I would definitely say that they're a fan favorite. I think, and even in the Discord and Reddit race threads and chats that we have, I mean, if people were like, Core Autosport good or bad, like people would be like good, like everybody would be like they're great. So I feel like for the fans too, just as a general audience perspective, I feel like there's a lot of Core Autosport fans out there. So it would kind of, not necessarily obviously the same tone, but it would be like kind of like a Porsche or Corvette or something like that pulling out kind of unexpectedly, and a lot of their fans would just be like, what? Like not even really I think we all understand Core is going to obviously go away at some point, but they've just done so much with so little, and they've done a lot of stuff in sports car racing that it just didn't feel like this is how they were just going to immediately call it quits.
Yeah, it's a bit like, when Alex Job Racing stopped as well. Like, it wasn't that the writing had been on the wall for a while, but, they'd stopped entering their cars in IMSA and were doing lower championships. Then one day they just decided not to. And it's been the same with a few other teams around as well that have, you followed them because they're not necessarily the plucky underdog, but because they're a team, that a privateer team that punches above their weight, and there's something romantic about that.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely gonna miss the orange and blue and orange, white, and blue cars. Mostly with Flexbox. I remember the Flexbox sponsorship.
Yep. Gotta hit that
exactly.
ding.
Gotta hit that ding.
And then the Flexbox being affiliated with, just because again, like, Flexbox was affiliated too with Dinner with Racers, Dinner with Racers as well, and like I feel like there's a little bit of just of the IMSA paddock community aspect of it too, where it's like the affiliation,
part of the character,
exactly, and they've always played that role, played that part, and they've been part of the racing circuits for so long that it's just kind of you've grown accustomed to them, and so when they're not there, it's there's things that then you will be missed, patterns that will be missed if they're not there. So we'll definitely be missing the racing patterns of core Autosport in the future. But yeah, I mean, time rolls on. They're not an OEM, so it's hard to expect everybody to continue. And we tip our cap. So
yeah, just a quick thing. One of my favorite core Autosports memories is actually from this year's Daytona, and it was when they caused a full course yellow just before the fireworks display happened. And there was this immortal tweet that I'm trying to find, where the car, I think it was Colin, or it might have even been John in the car at the time, radioed back to the team and said, tell IMSA that they didn't need to get the fireworks out for me getting the car rolling again, or something to that effect. And it's just like, that is 100% like just the character of that team. It's it was just brilliant.
Yeah, like and hopefully the paddock will have a there'll be suitable successors to their presence and impact, and it's going to be a hole to fill. So, it might feel like a eulogy, but like let me tell you, when Wayne Taylor Racing hangs that up, like oh my, that's going to be crazy, because I am used to them being a thing forever. I mean, obviously Penske and Ganassi too, but like for sports car racing, Wayne Taylor Racing in America, like that is it. And so like they're probably going to come to a point where that's not going to be a thing anymore either, and that's going to be crazy. So, but sports car racing moves on, time keeps moving. That's kind of the thing in our sport. So, but yeah, anything else left on the racing calendar, guys, that we've got coming up here? I know F1 finishes up, but that's already pretty much wrapped up. Anything that you guys might know about that I don't know, or anything I might know myself that you don't know that's coming up on the calendar of interest?
Macau next week.
That's
next
it.
week.
I was gonna ask about that. So,
and the GT races. We got some internationals back in the GT race. We got Eduardo Mortara, Mauro Engel, and I believe Marcello's also in there. So some heavy hitters, not as many as one would expect, because they still have that strict quarantine that they're forcing people to do. So it's not as international. Here's something I never thought I would be saying. Ever since they took it away, the Macau bike race is back.
Oh my God! Okay, so I was going to ask you guys a quick question about Macau weekend.
Mm-hmm.
5.5 is the over/under for red flag sessions, or red flagged sessions for the weekend. Is that, do you take the over or the under on that?
Over.
Yeah.
Okay. What are you guys estimating for red flag sessions? Like 12?
At least 8.
Well, with the bikes, that's what, like, I feel like with the bikes is, like I'm grimacing at that. I don't even know if I want to watch any of the sessions of that, because
I obviously was like, since Macau is so late in the year where nothing else is going on, like I do remember watching the bike races when they were on. It's probably like one of the last things in the motorsport world where just watching it will give you a heart attack.
Yeah,
it's like watching stuff from like, it feels like you're in like the 60s where like safety doesn't exist.
But yeah, like Isle of Man TT.
Like, but I was actually very surprised, because obviously with COVID, they scrapped the bike races because it was all internationals that came to that.
Yep.
Then you had like Peter Hickman, Dunlop. You had well-known names in road racing that did it. So I was genuinely surprised, because I thought that was going to be like COVID was going to be a reason enough to just sweep it under the rug. It's like, okay, we don't need to have this again on the organizer side. But I'm guessing there was still interest, because it's back. We got 2 races on the Saturday, So there's 15 riders. 11 of them are new to Macau. So I'm hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. Here's my stance. If the riders want to do it, I can't force them not to. I mean, these riders. It's like Isle of Man. These riders are not like us. Like what they do and what we think is fucking moronic and dangerous. They think it's it's freeing and the speed and the adrenaline that comes with it. It's just what they do. So like I'm more on the I don't know if they want to do it. Obviously, on that side of the world,
I mean,
safety might not be as good. Chinese, okay. They had a fatal wreck in the bike race, like
once a year.
No, they had stuff like Macau. They actually had years where people survive. Oh, that sounds that's
all right.
Oh my, that sounded wrong.
Oh, gosh.
That sounded worse when I said it.
Yeah, maybe we should just stop digging this hole.
Oh god.
But no, there's literally because it's like Chinese TV that that runs the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Like a rider crashed and it was bad. Like they died from it. And guess what Chinese TV does? Oh, let's focus on the rider. It's like, ooh.
I mean, last year, I mean, there was the what was it? The Audi, the R8 that went in and it turned 2, and I mean, I can't even I'm not exaggerating. The entire front end of that car was ripped off. Like the monocoque was intact, but and the driver's clearly injured, but they're just like, no, we'll hold the camera on him for as long as humanly possible until medical personnel get there, because why not? What else are we gonna do? And it was just kind of all right. I'm for even not necessarily hiding all kinds of stuff, but there's some stuff where you're all right, you can cut away now, guy. You can cut away. You cut and then also at the same time too, last year had that one of the support races. I'm sure you remember this, Chris, where they were coming back from a safety car, and the first 4 or 5 cars got through the last corner as they're going to green. I guess maybe the tires were all cold or there was oil or something. But every single car, basically, after the first 5, just crashed.
That was like the touring car race.
Yeah, it was a touring car race. Basically, there was a couple cars that misjudged how quickly you're supposed to go through the last corner. They basically stuffed it into Tepco barriers that were on the side, the corner exit. But they bounced back and just sat kind of like a corner exit. So a few cars just kind of started piling up there. So there's you could see marshals just furiously waving double yellows. There's cars for almost 20 seconds still piling in, almost at full speed. They just do not realize that it is not green. You need to slow down for cars. And so you just see cars just getting slamming into other cars, just one flipping over another one, others just jamming up. And it's this is crazy. This is just utterly insane. This is the definition of motorsport chaos. In its current form in 2022. At the time 2021, but still last year was bonkers. So this year is going to be insane, and especially with the bikes. I'll be tuning in, but I'm going to be putting my hand over my face. I feel a few times. So that's exciting. I'll look forward to that, and then obviously the F1 finale as well. So. But yeah, final comments, guys. I think right or okay.
Supercars as well. Supercars.
Oh yeah, you got your season.
Yeah. Finale in Adelaide on the streets of Adelaide. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be fantastic.
Who's leading the championship? Is it SVG?
Well, yeah, SVG's won the championship, and he's also won 21 out of the 32 races so far. He's had some season.
Yeah,
it's been ridiculous.
I mean, he hasn't done as much endurance racing or other stuff too this year. I feel right?
He did the Bathurst 12 hour. He's done bits and pieces of GT World Challenge Australia. But he's done a bit more rally. So he did an Australian rally. I can't remember exactly where it was, but he also did the World Rally Championship WRC2 in New Zealand and finished on the podium in WRC2 and in the top 10 overall. So he's done whatever he's put his hand to, he's done really well at, and he finished on the podium in the 12 hour. So yeah, cracker season from SVG.
And I'll have to double check because this weekend is not only the Bahrain 8 hour. There's also the Bathurst International.
Yep, that's on this weekend as well.
So TCR's Touring Car Masters S5 S5000 is having a demo run, I think.
Yeah.
Production cars, Porsche Sprint Challenge, and GT World Challenge Australia, is having a 3-hour race on Sunday local time at Bathurst. So I gotta double check to see if SVG's on the entry list. I know Triple Eight's there. Okay,
he's not. So Brock Feeney will be
there.
taking the ride there. Yeah.
Okay. So after 8 hours of Bahrain, if you haven't had enough endurance racing, you can 5-6 hours later you can watch a 13-car race at Bathurst
for 3 hours. And if you don't watch that, you can just read my race report about it instead on Daily Sports Car.
Then this is my time to shine. Time to get into the nitty gritty. The weekend after Macau, you got, I believe, Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil. I think they got like an endurance race there. That's Thanksgiving weekend for all the Americans. Also, WTC, the very last weekend of WTCR is going to be on the Jeddah Short Circuit. We'll have to see how that pans out.
Yes. Yes. No. Yes. Chaos. Oh, yes.
Okay. Then afterwards, obviously, you got the Adelaide 500 GT World Challenge Australia supporting that as well. And it should be. It's like a 3-day. It's like 3 days worth of racing.
4 days.
4 days. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay.
So, Adelaide's in my time of being at the Adelaide 500, they've always done 4 days. So all the support category practice and qualifying with this. Like normally they do a single race on Thursday, then supercars practice and support category races on Friday. And then, qualifying and race for the supercars plus all the supports on Saturday and Sunday. So it is always a huge weekend. That like I'm talking 10 to 12 hour days trackside as a marshal. So nuts.
And
stay hydrated, Floody.
That same weekend on that same weekend on the Friday, you get Creventic with the hand cooked 12 hours of Kuwait. Yeah.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, entry list, the last time I checked it, looked great, but it's like I'll check it out because it's a new track that I haven't seen before. So I'll watch like maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes.
Watch there not be any sand anywhere around it. I mean, they're kind of near water. Anyway, sorry.
But then afterwards, the weekend after, the December 10th, 11th, that weekend, is the Gulf 12 Hours. And the difference is, we had the Gulf 12 Hours before, but the difference is this is the finale for the Intercontinental GT Challenge.
Wait, what?
Yeah. It's an SRO event now.
What?
Yeah.
When did that happen?
They announced it at the Spa 24.
This confuses and scares me.
We have to pay attention to this now.
We got like 30-something GT3s on the entry list.
Oh.
And then you got like, I don't know, 7 or 8 Porsche Cup cars. Just
classic IGTC, just completely ruining a club event. Well, I'm not bitter about production cars getting forced out of Bathurst, not at all.
Oh, they didn't have production cars in the Gulf 12 Hours anyway.
Okay, fair, that's true. It's just so weird because like the Gulf 12 Hours has been this sort of like not quite niche, but still super niche sort of. Oh, there's a few GT cars, but mostly it's like other Pro-Am sort of racing. And then like, here comes IGTC, bam, GT3. Here we go.
I remember when it had LMP3 in the past, but then I think they couldn't work out a deal, or the ACO didn't want them to anymore, so like they couldn't really do it. And so it was like GT3 and then GT Cup cars, maybe a couple of GT4s, and that was really the class structure of it. So from my understanding, it's going to be the same organizer. It's just going to be part of the IGTC. But there's going to be like SRO stuff involved, but the organizer. So it's like a Bathurst 12-hour situation where you can have like the organizer of the event separate to what the championship is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the same organizer also said, "Oh yeah, after the Gulf 12 hours, the weekend after, we're gonna have a 4-hour race at Dubai," which I don't think it's gonna be streamed. But they're like, "Hey, anybody wants to do the Gulf 12 hours? We got another 4-hour race the weekend before Christmas," and we'll see how that goes. And we also got Thailand Super Series that same weekend of the Gulf 12 hours, which that's actually gaining in steam internationally because Speed Cafe now reports on it. Marcus Winkelhock was at the last round.
Wait, what? Oh my gosh.
And I believe, I don't know if he still has a team in there, but Earl Bamber Motorsports was in some way, in shape or form, involved in that series. And I'd say it's growing. So if you can't get enough of the Gulf 12 hours that second weekend of December, you also got the Thailand Super Series, which also has a lot more stuff than just GT3 cars. Like they have pickup trucks and compacts and eco cars. So that'll be fun.
And then it slowly, inevitably shifts to January, and then we get the Roar.
And then we get the Roar. Yeah, exactly.
in which I mean, you've sort of paid attention before, but I think this is the first time that I'm gonna have your full attention for the Roar. I feel like, Flood, you're gonna want to know how that 963 works, and they're gonna have a qualifying race at the end of it. So you're gonna see them in race trim to a certain extent too. So.
Damn it, I was so keen to just forget about racing over the summer and watch cricket, but no. The 963 is going to be there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
My gosh.
I may have to make my appearance at the Roar. We'll see. I'm carrying over a bunch of PTO from this year for holidays, so I could burn an extra day and go there. That'd be fun.
Nah, you're gonna save it to go to Le Mans next year.
I can't because I got a wedding.
Well, don't get married that weekend then.
No, I'm not.
Don't do it.
Well, I'm standing up in a wedding. I'm not getting married. So. Don't do it. I used to be like, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I just breathed a sigh of the relief that it wasn't like on. It wasn't a complete conflict of Le Mans weekend. So I was like, thank fucking God. So excuse my French, but I'm excited for that. And then man, we're gonna get to see all the new cars and see how they work, how they do. Except for Ferrari. We won't see that one yet, but whatever. Who cares about Ferrari, right?
That's a politically charged statement.
No, I'm a Ferrari fan, so I can say that. I don't think I actually can say that.
Can you?
I don't think I can buy a Ferrari anymore.
Oh, oof.
Yeah, I'm on the Ferrari blacklist. Anyway, so with that being said, I think that is pretty much it for this little wrap up for the month of October, even though it's well into November. But we're getting kind of back into sort of schedule with this, so we'll try to do more of that, and then obviously we'll have one following this one in December. So, Flood, I really appreciate you being able to just randomly join us for part of this. That was awesome. Thank you for having me. Yeah, man. Get some opinion on some random American side stories. We didn't even talk about anything other than motorsport this time. Chris, can you believe that?
We had a lot to cover. To be fair, I think next month we're gonna definitely have a lot more free time.
Yeah,
that's when college bowl season starts up.
Oh my gosh, I hate it already.
I'll put a specific timestamp in here so people can listen to the. To us prep for talking about non-motorsport stuff.
Floodband 11 Roll Tide.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, no. But yeah, man. And Chris, any final thoughts from you, buddy? Anything else that you got on your mind you want to get out real quick as the closing music starts to envelop us all?
No, not really. Really excited to see how Bahrain shapes up. See who the champions are going to be for that. I'm actually one of the only people excited for the Gulf 12 hours to see how that event goes under SO branding, and the Packers made my life miserable.
Yeah, I feel like the focus for both of us has shifted very quickly to that of motorsports and other things to make us happy because another form of competitive sport has gone horrifically wrong for our home state. So. We're just not going to talk about that, and we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys next time on the Final Stint podcast. Have a good night, guys. Take care.
Join us next month where we talk about the socioeconomic policies of the Quad Cities.
Oh, God.
Angry Gazoo?